Okay, let's start with the basics. The simple sentence. It has 5 parts. The capital letter to begin the sentence, a subject, a verb, action, or linking, an object also known as the completing part, and end punctuation. I don't mean to insult your intelligence by suggesting that you don't know that a simple sentence begins with a capital letter and ends with end punctuation. However, I do want to make a distinction between the simple sentence and the clause. A clause can be found within a sentence, a simple sentence, a compound sentence which has 2 or more clauses, a complex sentence that has 2 or more clauses, or a compound complex sentence that have 3 or more clauses. But I do want to make sure that you understand that a simple sentence has 5 parts, capital letter, subject, verb, completing part, and end punctuation, and a clause has a subject, verb, and a completing part, but does not have that capital letter or the end punctuation because a clause is found within a sentence, is not a sentence by itself. A subject is a noun that does the action of the sentence or that is something. So it is what is driving the motion of the sentence, the action of the sentence, or it is what the sentence is about. Most of the time it comes to the left of the verb at the beginning of the sentence, but not always. There are 2 kinds of main verbs, action verbs and linking verbs. You probably already know this. What you may not know is that action verbs can be broken down into 2 parts, transitive verbs and intransitive verbs. Let's focus on transitive verbs first. Transitive verbs are action verbs that take objects. For example, with the verb to kick, Robert kicked the ball. He kicked what? He kicked the ball. What he is kicking is the direct object. The ball is the object of the verb kicked. Robert is doing the kicking. He is our subject. Kicking is the action verb. It is transitive, so that means that there has to be a noun that follows that verb. I want pizza. She painted the room. He wrote a poem. I ate a horse. Carla cleaned her room. Alex broke his ankle. In each of these sentences, the action verb is followed by a noun, a direct object. That makes these action verbs transitive. Intransitive verbs are still action verbs, but they do not take objects. To cry, to laugh, to sing, to sneeze, to arrive, to sit, to die. These are all sample action verbs that are intransitive. Robert cried. He didn't cry something. We don't cry something, we simply cry. And so because no object is needed to follow the action verb, we call those intransitive verbs. To laugh, Sally laughed. To sing, Catherine sang. However, some action verbs can be used as transitive or intransitive verbs. So as a writer, you decide how you would like to use it. Catherine can sing a song, or Catherine can just sing. So while, for example, you don't sneeze something, or you don't arrive something, or you don't sit something, or you don't die something, you can have a prepositional phrase follow an intransitive verb. Joey sneezed on the cat. The clan has arrived before noon. The class sat down. So you can have some kind of a phrase to follow an action verb that is intransitive, but not a straight noun. Linking verbs are irregular forms of the verb to be, and these are followed by adjectives or nouns. We call them predicate adjectives or predicate nouns because they are adjectives or nouns that are found in the predicate of the sentence or following the verb. Am, is, are, was, were, be, being, and been are your main linking verbs. And here are some of the ways that they're used. Murder is wrong, love is the answer, we are people, crying is cathartic, grass is green, stealing is illegal, schools are mandatory. The words in red are the adjectives. Murder is wrong, wrong is an adjective, and so wrong is describing murder, but from afar. Usually adjectives fall to the left of our nouns, but if it is following a linking verb, then the linking verb acts like an equal sign, and the adjective describes murder after the linking verb. Love is the answer. The nouns are in purple. Answer is purple. People is purple. They are both nouns. And so they are equal to the subject of that sentence. Love and answer are equal. We and people are equal. They mean the same thing, or they are synonymous in this sentence. Crying is cathartic. Again, cathartic is describing crying. Green is describing grass. Stealing is illegal. Illegal is describing stealing, and mandatory is describing schools. There are linking verbs that are different than the am, is, are, was, were, be, being, or been, or the forms of the verb to be. These are verbs that are related to the five senses and can be used as linking verbs or action verbs. So for example, you look marvelous. I don't feel well. The cake smells amazing. The milk tastes rancid. The music sounds soothing. They're all doing the job of describing a state of being, how somebody looks, or how I feel, or the way the cake smells, or the way the milk tastes, or the music sounds. Music isn't performing an action, it is being. Milk isn't performing an action, it is tasting, it is being tasted. The cake is being smelled, it isn't doing the smelling itself. That looks like pizza. So again, an adjective or a noun can follow a linking verb. But these can also behave like action verbs. Don't make me look. In this case, I am doing the looking. I'm performing an action. I can't smell anything. In this case, the subject I is doing the smelling, and so it is an action verb, not a linking verb. So all of those words in red and purple and green, those are the objects of the sentence, also known as the completing part. The direct and indirect objects that follow action verbs, transitive action verbs, and the predicate nominatives or predicate adjectives that follow linking verbs are what make up the completing part. Sometimes phrases are a part of a completing part, and we'll talk about phrases another time. The fifth part of the simple sentence is end punctuation, a period, a question mark, an exclamation point. You're familiar with these, obviously, and they designate the end of a sentence rather than the end of a clause. So it is important to know the five parts of the simple sentence and the difference between a simple sentence and a clause. It is also important to know the difference between transitive and intransitive verbs, the two kinds of linking verbs, irregular forms of the verb to be, and the five senses. What makes up the completing part of a sentence, direct and indirect objects, and predicate nominatives or predicate adjectives, and finally, that end punctuation and the capital letter at the beginning designates a sentence and not a clause. Thank you.